Rogues in vanilla World of Warcraft have always been an amazing performer in all areas of content. They were in the top 3 DPS classes in the game, oftentimes being able to be number 1 if a fight had enough potential to cleave, and in PvP only the mage comes close to having such a legacy of famous names known for dominating on this class. So in Season of Discovery, it will be interesting to see how Blizzard build on the reputation that the vanilla rogue has, both from a damage point of view and from a more new tanking one as well. I have to say some of the class fantasies being brought into the game in Season of Discovery are ones which I have heard about over the years, but I can't really say I've heard people saying, but what if Rogue could tank? Nevertheless, that is what Blizzard have decided to do, and we don't have long to wait until we find out how it performs. But today let's talk about the known runes for Rogue in Season of Discovery, go over how they will work, and to what extent they will impact this class. I want to start by covering the tank package as we have it at the moment, as I don't see a world where you're playing rogue tank and you don't pick all 3 of the runes which they have. The first one that makes sense to cover is your leg rune here, Blade Dance, a new finishing move that lasts longer and increases chance to parry based upon combo points spent. At 5 combo points it's 30 seconds of 10% bonus parry. Notably, 1 combo point is still 14 seconds of 6% parry, and they have given a large bonus from just 1 combo point for a very good reason, which we will talk about when you've seen all the tanking runes. Either way, you will absolutely want this up 100% of the time during combat, because of your next rune, Just a Flesh Wound. This is the big important tanking rune which gives you tons of bonuses. First of all, you take 20% less physical damage whilst the Blade Dance is active. Rogues still wear leather, and as far as we know so far, there are no damage mitigation offhands, no bonus armor scaling, or even bucklers as they had during the vanilla beta. You're still just going to be dual wielding as normal, so incoming damage will be high when hits get through. Additionally, whilst this rune is active, you have a 6% less chance to be crit by melee attacks, and threat from all your attacks is massively increased. And finally, your feint ability becomes Tease, which will act as your taunt. So then you'll be crit immune in PvE, take way less physical damage, and you get a taunt from this ability. It's kind of funny that when Prop Palette is finally getting taunt in vanilla, so are rogues and other classes, but anyway. Finally, on your gloves is Man Gauche, so you instantly strike with your offhand for regular damage, increasing your chance to parry for 10 seconds, and gaining 1 combo point. An efficient mix of combo point generation and defensives here. This should be an ability to press off of cooldown for sure. So that's the rogue tanking package. Here are a few thoughts on it at this early stage. So if I'm being honest, this just sounds really clunky to play. You'll have to run in and pull with no cooldowns active quite often, where your first 2 globals are spent frantically trying to get Blade Dance active as soon as possible for the parry chance and the flat physical damage reduction from Just a Flesh Wound. During these globals, you're pretty much just a rogue running into a pack of enemies, praying that your passive avoidance kicks in and you don't get deleted. But if you do start to get hit, well, the healer has to do something about that. They can't just ignore you, and there will be at least 3 DPS in the party, and other people will start generating threat. And the rogue at the moment has 0 AoE threat whatsoever. Even grenades are casted in vanilla, and you can't dodge, block, or parry during casts. So what you're going to have to start doing is tabbing between targets and hitting them to build threat. And you know what happens when you tab as a rogue in vanilla? You lose your combo points. So with how it plays at the moment, you'll have to run in and nade at the same time, Man Gauche, Blade Dance, then tab and Sinister Strike, Slice and Dice, tab, Riposte is probably up by now, so you'll use that, tab again, Sinister Strike, and you'll have 1 combo point to do something before you feel as though you need to tab again, and you'll just carry on from there. There are tanks in vanilla with weaker AoE threat for sure, but to have weaker AoE threat and a weakness to target switching seems like a pretty big flaw at the moment. Then again, maybe Blizzard just put a 200% threat modifier on everything the rogue does. Engineering is starting to sound mandatory on this class for me. I mean, you are probably taking it anyways, but now it's even better. And of course, later in Season of Discovery, when rogues can get Blade Flurry and Adrenaline Rush, they're going to see some big improvements. I also think this spec will be amazing on single target threat. Passive mitigation from the rogue was already really good, and their 2 new abilities will grant 20% more parry when active. And between Wind Fury, Parry Haste and Sword Spec, Tank Rogue is going to absolutely demolish their main target. They also have a strong build by level 25 too. In this simple build I picked up 5% more parry, riposte and 5% hit. Stacking those up at level 25 is going to make for some interesting rogue tank gameplay. I just hope that they can withstand taking a hit or two on the pull without everything falling apart. And yes, it's early in the season, but an AoE ability does feel like it's missing at the moment. Fan of Knives would be the obvious answer, maybe with a 6 to 10 second cooldown, does minor damage, generates 1 combo point. Maybe that's already planned for a later rune, we don't know. Either way, that's the rogue tank, has potential, looks kind of clunky to play though. Let's move on and cover the next set of runes, which again I think are really a package deal. And if you want to play them, you're probably going to be playing all 3. And this package will be for people who want to play around poisons as a key source of damage. It's kind of like Blizzard are having a second go at making TBC Assassination somewhat playable. And I may have a thing or two to say about that as well, but we'll cover the runes first. Deadly Brew. When you inflict any other poison on a target, you also inflict deadly poison. Okay, so this frees you up from actually needing to use deadly on your weapons, which is nice because you don't even learn this ability till level 30, and seeing as we're 25 at the start of Season of Discovery, that would have been a bit of a problem. But this modified version of the talent with the same name from Wrath of the Lich King is the first piece of the assassination puzzle in Season of Discovery. And the next piece is Envenom, another TBC ability. But this one is mixed with the Wrath of the Lich King version too. The first notable change is that Envenom does not consume poisons. It did in TBC, and in Wrath of the Lich King you can have a talent or glyph the ability to stop this from happening, so for this effect to be baseline is really strong. Following an Envenom you have a 75% increased chance of applying instant poison for 1 second, and an additional 1 second per combo point spent. And finally is perhaps Assassination's most notorious ability, Mutilate. Instantly attack with both weapons, dealing bonus damage to poison targets, awards 2 combo points. So I've quite a few things to say about this. First up, it does not specify on this tooltip whether you are required to dual wield daggers. The TBC and Wrath of the Lich King versions both do. Then again, assuming Mutilate is 60 energy, dealing an instant 100% weapon damage with both weapons, that would be pretty OP if you could use whatever you wanted with this. Second is that when you mutilate and crit twice, you get 2 bonus combo points from the Seal Fate talent. Well, at least that's how it's worked in other expansions in the past. So this could be 4 combo points from one ability in Classic, which is really powerful. Finally, there is no positional requirement either, which there was up to Wrath of the Lich King. So all in all, Mutilate looks good, and it could very well be played by more than just rogues going down the assassination tree. So here's a few thoughts on the assassination package rogues are getting. It has problems, like a lot of problems actually. So where should I start? Maybe with this. What do poisons scale with in Classic? Great question. They don't. Spell power doesn't affect them. That was an alternative server thing, and they only began to scale with attack power in Wrath of the Lich King. If the target has debuffs that cause them to take more damage, then your poison damage will be increased, otherwise they won't. This is why during Classic, if you were PvEing on a rogue, you tended to use Sharpening Stones or Wind Fury. The second problem is you can't have Wind Fury and poisons active at the same time. They are both considered weapon buffs and don't stack. I mean, Horde won't get Wind Fury to level 30 anyway, that's true, but a rogue running this spec will need a Feral Wind Fury, which I believe is considered an aura-wide buff, not a temporary weapon enchant. The third problem is many poisons in Classic have charges. At level 25 we will have Instant Poison rank 1, which has 40 charges. And if you envenom and get that 75% extra chance to apply instant poison, on top of a few Wind Fury procs, you're literally going to run out of charges and have to start reapplying poisons every couple of minutes. Even the highest rank of instant poison only has 115 charges. And there are only a handful of poisons which don't have charges, such as crippling poison, but then you aren't getting one of the big benefits from envenom as you don't have instant poison active. So in short, for this assassination build, poisons in vanilla just aren't very good, and also you probably want to raise the poison charges or something by a fair amount, otherwise the rogue is going to pause mid-combat and say, sorry guys, instant poison ran out, let me reapply it real quick. And now on to the rest of the runes which don't quite fit together into packages and could see a bit more experimentation. First is a chest rune, Slaughter from the Shadows. Reduces the cost of backstab and ambush by 20, so that will mean you're getting a 40 energy backstab then. I mean, just go into Season of Discovery, play your standard dagger rogue, but your main ability to deal damage just got its energy cost reduced by 1/3. I have to imagine that's already pretty good. I'm not sure it's quite keeping pace with some of the runes other DPS classes have received, but pressing backstab and seeing those big crits is satisfying. Not a huge amount to say here, just makes an already viable spec a bit better. Next is Quick Draw. Fire a shot using your ranged weapon, causing normal damage, and reducing the target's movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds, also generates 1 combo point. And now rogues have an actual reason to want a ranged weapon upgrade over just bonus stats. I guess you can pay back hunters for all the times they took your melee weapons now. This isn't a full-on ranged rogue spec either, by the way. You aren't going to be auto-attacking with your ranged weapon in between this. It's just a ranged combo point generator and a slow. Which has me to assume the key role of this ability will be PvP. I can see a rogue getting a ranged slow being reasonable. At the same time, it's going to conflict with going for a reset on stealth, which is probably just the better option here. Similar to Quick Draw is Between the Eyes, a ranged finisher that deals damage as well as stuns. It also shares a cooldown with Kidney Shot. And at level 25, can I remind you, rogues do not have Cheap Shot or Kidney Shot, so maybe they needed a stun to compete. Again, you have to think this is more relevant on the PvP side of things, where it will allow rogues to close the gap on targets. It seems okay, it's just rogues tend to eventually get so many cooldowns that if you're playing it right, you can already stick to your target. I am no pro rogue PvPer by any means though, so maybe I'm underestimating this. Finally, we have 1 or 2 glove runes to cover. First of which is Shadow Strike, which is kind of a mix between ambush and shadow step, but it does require stealth to use. Due to other runes on the gloves, once again, seems like more of a PvP tool, but would you rather Shadow Strike for damage and 1 combo point, or Cheap Shot to set up your entire rotation moving forwards? Then again, just like I've mentioned, you won't have Cheap Shot at level 25, so maybe this is the build where you're jumping on people and really just trying to global them. Also, who knows, we could get Shadow Dance later on and this becomes a PvE thing as well. Next is Shiv. Again, I think of PvP for this. Despite it benefiting from effects that trigger Sinister Strike, it's an offhand attack, which means it won't proc Wind Fury, so that's no good for PvE. And guaranteeing a poison to be applied is only good for utility poisons, or in other words, just crippling poison. It's kind of like hamstring for rogues, but it does a bit more damage. And finally, Saber Slash. A new addition to the game, instantly attacking the target and applying a bleed that stacks up to 3 times. You might as well just read this as better Sinister Strike, to be honest, because that's what it is. It deals 30% extra weapon damage and has a bleed on top of it. So if you're playing combat swords, unless there is some funky stuff going on with Mutilate this season, this seems like a no-brainer to pick up. And those are the runes for the rogue. So all in all, I bet tank is going to blast on single target, but at the moment feels clunky due to no built-in AoE threat and combo points fading on tapped target. The poison build needs a few tweaks to make it a bit more user-friendly. Instant poison was not designed to proc anywhere as near as often as it will be doing in Season of Discovery. I also think the spec just won't scale well and won't be anywhere near as good as combat. Both existing combat swords and daggers builds got a buff, but they're just making something which is already known to work a little bit better. Now Blizzard could just be cautious about overbuffing a strong class, and then I go and remind myself what they gave the mage, so who knows. And on the PvP side of things, there are a bunch of tools here which will of course be worth taking, but I'm not sure how much they impact or improve what a rogue can already do. Rogues seem to be in a strange spot for their level 25 bracket, where I'm not really seeing much in the way of changes from pretty much over half the runes that they're getting. Of course, this is early in the game, I have to say that. There will be more runes added in the future, and the game's not out yet. Things could still change, and maybe in the time that I release this video, some of them already have. But if you're a vanilla rogue enjoyer, I want to hear about what you think about the new runes and what we know the rogue is getting. Is there anything that will be changing rogue playstyle in a big way? And are you happy with what this class has received so far? Let me know below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.